I was quite lucky while pulling on the recent banners and I managed to get Hrid, Ylgr, and Surtur. In this video I want to give some quick thoughts on each of these units because I know some people are still trying to get them and Hrid's legendary banner is going away very soon. Now let's start off with Hrid. He is a sword cavalry unit who sacrifices his speed for some decent defensive bulk as well as a really good 37 base attack. The reason he is so slow is because of his unique sword, Gyo. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it better than last time. Gyo allows Hrid to prevent enemy follow-up attacks with the condition that the enemy is affected by some kind of negative debuff. This makes Hrid quite tanky since his physical and magical bulk aren't that bad, especially if he's only taking one hit. Hrid also gets himself a guaranteed follow-up thanks to Gyo, and with distant counter he can fight ranged threats too, which is very good. From getting to play around Hrid, I find that he very much lives or dies on whether or not Gyo is active. Thanks to Freezing Seal, Hrid at least always debuffs one enemy guaranteed, but it's not like he is always going to be able to fight that specific enemy. I find that Hrid is extremely solid against general threats such as the enemies you see in PvE content. I've been using him in Forging Bonds and most times he shrugs off most attackers and KOs them with his 2 hits and Moonbow. However, he is really not that amazing if he isn't fighting a debuffed enemy. 17 base speed is awful and Hrid will get doubled by most of the other units out there. I find that just by himself, Hrid is not super reliable. To try and remedy this issue, I've tried pairing him up with Arvis, who is the Ploy Master. With a Ploy user like Arvis, I think Hrid's consistency improves because whilst Freezing Seal is nice, it's not going to hit every unit at once. I will say that Attack Smoke is a very good tool for Hrid because it lets him possibly debuff multiple enemies by himself, and that of course feeds into Gyo's activation requirement. Overall, I think Hrid is very scary when he gets his matchups against a debuffed enemy. One problem for arena usage is that Bold Fighter kinda messes with Gyo in that it cancels each other out, and Hrid can still be doubled if the enemy army unit outspeeds him. To be quite honest, there are many army units who can still double Hrid just off of speed, and with how common Bold Fighter or even Vengeful Fighter are, I don't exactly feel like he's going to be a common threat. Hrid also shares a distant counter sword cavalry role with Xander, who everyone can get for free. Xander may not be able to prevent guaranteed follow-ups, but he is much faster than Hrid and he has his A slot free for any defensive skills such as the new Steady Stance 4. To me, Hrid is still a good unit, but I really think he needs some assistance in spreading debuffs to be a more consistent threat. In regards to Ylgr, I don't have that much to say. She's my first colored dagger user, and I guess I'm still not entirely sure how much I value the colored archers or dagger users just yet. Ylgr is a pretty typical heavy offensive unit who wants to double her opponent thanks to her high base speed. Her weapon, Ylgr, grants +4 attack and speed when Ylgr outspeeds her opponent by at least 1 point, and as some people pointed out, I forgot to mention that if Ylgr is active, then Ylgr guarantees she outspeeds her enemy by at least 5 points of speed. That means unless she is affected by something like Wary Fighter, then Ylgr will always double if Ylgr is active. That's a nice bonus, and since Ylgr is already really fast, she will be tough to stop through sheer speed alone. Now regarding Sorcery Blade, I will say that it's not an easy skill to use. Ideally it's better for a defensive unit who can bait enemies in on the enemy phase and just stand next to their mage ally. However, Ylgr is very much not an enemy phase unit. She is pretty frail, and while she can probably take a hit, I wouldn't want to put her in danger multiple times. Trying to set up a mage next to Ylgr for player phase attacks is also not that easy, although against army units it is manageable since they generally aren't rushing you down. Personally, I think Sorcery Blade's potential is not that high on a unit like Ylgr, and I would just give her more consistent skills like Fury. I think Ylgr is a solid blue attacker, but I was not amazed by Sorcery Blade. I think it's a skill that should be on a different type of unit. Last up is Surtur, and oh boy, I already thought he was going to be very annoying and very good, but man, I was even more impressed than I thought I would be once I got to use him. Surtur is just insane. I got myself a plus res and minus defense nature, and my god, he is a monster. 40 defense at 36 res is just dumb for starting values, and he can buff himself too. In all honesty, even without his weapon and unique skill, Surtur is just a huge ball of stats. Sinmara and Surtur's menace just enhances his power and absolutely makes him one of the most disgusting units out there. Even Steady Stance 4 is incredibly good, and I would say makes trying to fight Surtur in melee combat almost suicidal. If you do not run a strong ranged unit against Surtur, things get very messy. So the main aspect I want to talk about regarding Surtur is not how good he is in the arena, but his potential in Aether Raids. My goodness, Surtur has single-handedly improved my Aether Raids defense results. I've mentioned it before, but Surtur is a perfect boss type unit. Someone who is just stupidly annoying to take down, and when supported by the right units, he becomes a huge threat. Literally, Surtur's job in Aether Raids is to just stand his ground and make the enemy want to avoid him. Because of the turn limit, this makes Surtur so good because he punishes mistakes very hard. You cannot let him activate Sinmara and Surtur's Menace unless you have a really good red unit to tank the hit. Even then, the buff Surtur gets only makes him tougher, and Surtur already has a very high base attack to chunk anyone he reaches. I would say that Surtur is incredible for Aether Raids. If the opponent does not bring a good ranged attacker, Surtur will be so hard to take down. The healing tower structure is also really good to pair with him since it can get him back into wary fighter range. I've already faced one defense team with 4 Surturs, and to be honest, if I didn't have my Ophelia, things would have been a lot more difficult. I know everyone is running Reinhardt, Veronica, and Brave Lynn, but man, I think Surtur is a strong candidate for defense teams. If you ask me, I would 100% say he is worth having. The fact that Sinmara can activate every single turn is absurd, and it makes Surtur stupidly strong in the player's hands as well as the AI's control. When Surtur becomes a bonus unit, well, I'm sure that's going to be a fun 2 weeks. That's all I have to say for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed my thoughts on these units after getting to play with them for a bit. Let me know in the comments if you got Hrid, Ylgr, or Surtur, and has getting to use them changed your opinion on them as units. Thanks for watching, I have more videos on the way, and I hope to see you in the next one.